The two Coreys have a tragic story in Hollywood. Both Feldman and Haim have been taken advantage of as kids. They accuse actor Charlie Sheen of committing crimes and stealing their innocence. Charlie Sheen has sued for defamation over these allegations, and one of the Coreys' mother, Judy, claims that Charlie is innocent. In Judy's opinion, she's just trying her best to protect her dead son from allegations made by Corey Feldman. So what really happened to the two Coreys? Let's get into it. So today we're talking about the two Coreys and their traumatic experiences in Hollywood. But before we go any further, I would like to acknowledge that this story can get a little bit confusing because, well, they're both named Corey. So let me go ahead and introduce them. Corey Feldman is an American actor, musician, and activist. He got his start in Hollywood at a young age, just like Corey Haim. Besides the fact that Corey Haim is Canadian, these two Coreys have had similar careers, and there's a reason why they've been linked together. Both the Coreys were born in 1971. They were child actors during the 80s. They were both close friends. They grew up in Jewish families, and they appeared in a total of 9 films together. They later on had a reality show together, which we will get into.
This is Corey Haim. He was in Lost Boys, and he was in the movie License to Drive, which is coming out in August, and we're doing that movie together too. Yep. Anyway, so me and Jason changed bodies, and this is my best friend. His name is Dinger in the movie. And I've got long black hair in the movie. They're gonna put extensions on, so it's like 2 inches longer. Thank you. This is my hairstylist. It's beautiful.
So both Corey Feldman and Corey Haim had each other back in the day, back in Hollywood, which you guys know is a treacherous place, and they were supporting each other. Even though these guys shared some great times, they also share some of the darkest moments you could ever imagine. We learn about Feldman and Haim's experiences in the documentary My Truth. It came out in 2020, and it was produced by Corey Feldman. The documentary explores the friendship between Feldman and Haim and suggests that these boys were taken advantage of in Hollywood. The documentary itself begins by talking about Corey Haim's death. He unfortunately passed away in 2010, and it was a traumatic experience for everyone, especially his mother.
As hundreds paid final respects to child star Corey Haim, police released his mother's 911 call, and I do want to warn you, this is heart-wrenching. CBS's Michelle Gielan reports.
On the same day, family and friends gathered for Corey Haim's funeral. Police released the chilling 911 call his mother Judy made after he collapsed in her Los Angeles apartment last week.
He's not breathing.
Ma'am, are you with him right now?
Yes.
How old is he?
He's 38 years old. I don't know what's going on. He had a fever this morning and cold.
Okay, ma'am, listen, he's still awake right now.
No.
The dispatcher tries to get his mother to perform CPR, but to no avail.
Put one hand on his forehead, the other hand underneath his neck, and gently tilt his head back.
Okay.
Okay, ma'am, just keep doing the compression until you go and open the door.
I opened the door already. I opened the door.
The coroner's office is still waiting on the toxicology report. A drug overdose has not been ruled out.
So when Corey Haim first passed away, everyone thought it was due to an overdose. But I actually looked at his autopsy report. It turns out Corey Haim actually passed away due to pneumonia, which sounds really horrible, especially when you think about COVID nowadays. Like pneumonia, it's just like something you can survive, but if you don't, it's a bad way to go. So it wasn't the drugs that killed Corey Haim, but he definitely had an issue with addiction.
It seemed like all of Haim's real-life dreams were coming true. But the teenager who had come to Hollywood from Toronto with his mom when he was 12 was quickly sliding into a substance abuse nightmare.
Maybe one of the reasons why Corey Haim went to drugs was because of what he went through in Hollywood, which is extremely graphic. But before we get into the allegations, I do want to play a clip I found, which was pretty disturbing, because I feel like when you know that someone is struggling with drugs, you do everything in your power to try to save them, especially when they're a celebrity and they're in the public eye. You don't allow them to go and do an interview when they're high. And in this interview we're about to watch together, it's clear that Corey Haim Haim is on something.
In July 2001, Haim met with E! Entertainment Television and discussed his early career, including a TV commercial he did as a child. His comments were close to incomprehensible.
One was for, and it was below zero. I mean, you know, Toronto, you know, winter. Extra, read all about it, going out of business. And
I can't even watch it anymore. It's like, he's such a charming guy, and it's like you can see that he's struggling and that he's broken. 2 weeks after that interview, Corey Haim did have something to say about it, and he claims that things were just not going his way.
2 weeks later, producers asked Haim what happened during that first interview.
Just things weren't going my way that day.
Now let's get into the allegations, because Charlie Sheen, a big-time actor, is being labeled as the man who took advantage of Corey Haim. Because Corey Haim has passed away, Corey Feldman, has been speaking on his behalf and claimed that Charlie Sheen was the man who R-worded Corey Haim. This alleged incident went down on the set of a movie called Lucas, which starred both Corey's and Charlie Sheen. At this point, Corey Haim would have been 13 years old and Charlie Sheen would have been 19. So what does a 19-year-old want to do with a 13-year-old?
Just 14 years old in 1986, Corey Haim was already a star, playing the title role in the film Lucas.
Can you imagine that? Turning from something ugly into something beautiful.
He seemed poised to become one of the best actors of his generation, but instead his larger-than-life persona soon eclipsed his artistic promise.
Now let's talk about this incident that Corey Feldman is telling on behalf of Corey Haim. I want to stress that Feldman is telling Haim's story because Haim is no longer around, so it's Feldman's recounting of what Haim told him. So Corey Feldman said that Corey Haim told him that Charlie bent him over in between two trailers, put Crisco oil on his behind, and R-worded him in broad daylight. Anybody could have walked by. Anybody could have seen it. That sounds like an incredibly traumatic experience, and it seems like he's told other people about this. Well, at least Corey Feldman's ex-wife, Susanna, she claims that he shared that with her on the set of Lucas, that he was R-worded as a little boy. He told me that it was his co-star and that it was Charlie Sheen that did it. But Corey Haim wasn't the only Corey who was taken advantage of in Hollywood, because Corey Feldman has his own stories to share. So there are 4 other men who Corey accused of committing crimes to children in the industry. Let's start off by talking about Alfie Hoffman. He was the proprietor of the infamous Alfie's Soda Pop Club, a sort of Soho house for kids that was popular in the late 80s, which is concerning because this man likes kids. Corey told his story on an episode of Dr. Oz, and he claims that he met him when he was 12 years old. He came to his house to pick him up in his car, and he heard rumors that, Alfie's got the coolest parties in town, so, this is gonna be great. I'll hang out with you, even though I'm freaking 12 years old. Alfie Hoffman is actually the son of Bobby Hoffman, who was a big-time casting director in Hollywood. So Alfie pretty much had an easy way into the industry, which made it easy for him to dominate people because he had some type of, power from his father's legacy. Feldman hung out with Alfie a couple of times, but it turns out that supposedly Alfie had M-worded, touched Corey Haim at some party, and he was getting physical with these little kids, touching them inappropriately. Not a good look. Reminds me of the pool parties that Dan Schneider would throw. He would have a bunch of, potential actors come to a party with adults unsupervised, and who knows what the hell went down at those parties. I mean, we know a little bit. We've talked about it in past videos, but same vibe. Alfie never responded to those accusations, but someone who did respond is a man named John, and he was once Corey Feldman's assistant, and Corey claims that this man did what the last guy did to Corey Haim and touched him inappropriately. John Grissom was an actor himself, and he was an assistant, and he was involved in the industry. You'll notice a lot of these people who are predators in the industry have multiple roles they play because they ultimately don't do much. They just have these connections. So Corey Feldman accuses John of giving him drugs as a minor, and he started getting him hooked onto cocaine. They would go out multiple times a week. Corey Feldman claims that he was actually high when John physically touched him inappropriately. Back in 2017, I guess there was still MySpace, which is a major throwback. If you had a MySpace, comment below. But Feldman claims that this guy John still had a MySpace and had pictures of Corey Feldman and Corey Haim on there. He still taunts it and flaunts it. So seems like Corey Feldman accuses John of being proud of what he did to these young boys. But John has something else to say. John actually has responded to Corey Feldman, and he actually responded through a YouTube comment. He said, "It's not me. I'm sick and tired of saying that when no one listens. So God damn it, I'm not repeating it anymore." I can understand John's frustration if he is innocent and these guys are just accusing him, but he has a criminal past. Mr. John Grissom was arrested in 2001 and found guilty of inappropriately touching children in 2003. He actually served time in prison for this. It actually looks like John is still on probation, so hopefully he can get through that, but sheesh. I mean, at least he was criminally charged, but it's hard for me to believe his YouTube comment when, I mean, you have a criminal past doing this, so the Coreys would be an easy target. But let's go ahead and move on to our next creep, and his name is Marty. So Marty is a talent manager in Hollywood, and he's got a bunch of different talent, and there have been other people who have come forward and accused him of disgusting crimes. And I actually want to share a story that was featured in the documentary that Corey Feldman put together, My Truth. And this person, Evan Henze, is a singer who was taken advantage of by Marty. Thankfully, Evan had the courage to stand up and press charges against Marty, but this guy only got 6 months in jail. And what's disgusting is that Marty started getting physical with Evan when he was only 11 years old. This guy promised him a career, to be a singer, the Hollywood dream. And what would Evan have to do for it? He would have to give up his innocence to Marty. Evan shares, from day one, he already started to ask me inappropriate questions. So that was very puzzling, and as a child, you don't really know what's right and what isn't, so that's where the line is. He also shares the times that Marty would do things to him. Marty told him to turn over, and he looks at him and he tells him to drop his pants, and then, Evan's thoughts are, wow, this again? Because it happened multiple times for years. It all started when he was 11 and continued until he was 15. At one point, I don't even want to read this, but he describes a time where Marty, does things with his mouth. It's just really foul. He's 12 years old, and this guy is damaging his entire childhood experience by making him do these things. A lot of you guys are probably asking, where's Evan's parents? Well, Marty was a close friend of the family, and that's how a lot of these situations work. Like, they gain the parents' trust, and then they're around them all the time. And then your parents, they don't possibly believe you. I mean, Evan actually had to record his experience to provide proof for his parents. And even in court, Marty tried to justify what he did to this kid by comparing it to what animals do all the time. He ended up facing a handful of charges, and he was sentenced to 1 year and 5 months in jail. He only served 6 months. So these criminals get out so easily when it comes to children. It's like, what? That was 6 months away. That was no time. Here's a clip from that documentary, My Truth, of Evan sharing a little bit about his experience with Marty.
Courthouse, and he was in chains, he was in shackles, and he was a lot grayer.
Now I had to go up on a stand and, tell people, along with Marty staring at me, what went down.
He insisted that he wanted to go up there. It was I was very proud of him, what he did.
I don't need this pain in my heart by being mad at someone my entire life, but it's more a matter of, telling the truth for me and saying, okay, you know, what you did was horrible. I don't know. I just felt like I need to move beyond it, and I don't need to feel that pain. And if he can accept it, that what he did was horrible and could move beyond it, you know, I could forgive.
The documentary is very intense, and I can't imagine being a child, having this man take advantage of you for 5 years, and then you have to go to court and face them to press charges. And then when charges are pressed and justice is served, they're barely in jail. I want to react to this clip together of Evan speaking a little bit more about his experiences with Marty. As I mentioned earlier, Evan had to record these incidents with Marty to provide proof to his parents. And here's a snippet of him sharing a little bit about that incident, because Marty almost caught him recording the whole interaction.
But how could he think? Because he was, I mean, and you recorded this. You actually took a ride with him with a tape recorder. And I don't know if I laughed, but I definitely felt like I had a visceral reaction in the room when you said I was so scared my recorder was going to beep.
Yeah.
Because I've been there before. Yeah, as a filmmaker myself, you know, with a cult leader once, I was like, is this going to beep right now?
Oh,
you know?
wow.
Yeah, but you had that experience. It didn't beep, thankfully.
Yeah.
But he says, are you recording this?
Yeah. Well, I think he suspected it, but because we were going to a lot of details.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of in the middle of the night.
That first night.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, we were going back to that conversation. I was really pressing him for answers and to get that admission on tape. But it ended up working out, and he asked me the question, like, are you recording me? And I said, no. You can tell I'm lying in the film, like I'm totally nervous. But
thankfully, Evan was able to get that recording of Marty and turn it into authorities. But imagine if Marty caught him recording. I mean, that would have been so scary. And these victims shouldn't have to go through so much to prove that this happened to them. But I want to talk a little bit about Corey Feldman's documentary, My Truth, where Evan's story was featured and the allegations against the two Coreys have been featured, because this documentary itself has received some backlash. So Corey Feldman claims that he felt inspired to make this film after the Me Too movement. He started teasing the fact that he was going to expose people on Twitter by tweeting out tweets like, "Now is the time. Name the names."
We have the ability to let our voices be heard and break the dam of silence.
Corey Feldman once again opening up about the dark side of the spotlight. In a new YouTube video, the former child star vowing to expose a ring of Hollywood pedophiles who he claims abused thousands of children.
I can name 6 names, one of them who's still very powerful today.
Feldman posting the video after launching an online campaign aimed at raising $10 million to fund his plan to reveal what he calls the truth.
I propose to do this by making a film that'll be the most honest and true depiction of child abuse ever portrayed, by telling my own story in a very real way.
So 2017, the Me Too movement pops off and Corey Feldman is inspired. He goes to YouTube and he asks for people's help to raise a bunch of money to create this documentary to expose people in Hollywood, which is great. I mean, he's going to go and expose people, but he like creates this like GoFundMe type of page and he starts collecting money to essentially create this film. I mean, no one in Hollywood would produce a film like this, and he actually charged people to watch the documentary. They actually had some issues with the streaming when it first was supposed to come out. It was like 45 minutes delayed, and he was blaming hackers, and people were upset because they spent $20 to watch this, and you know, the hackers are taking it over. I even found old tweets where people were asking Feldman, like, are our credit cards okay because your system was hacked? And that is pretty scary to think, like, did Charlie Sheen hire someone to hack this documentary so it wouldn't come out? But it came out 45 minutes later, so it wasn't that serious. But honestly, the aftermath of this documentary has been serious. And a lot of people are upset because they feel like they were accused of something they did not do. Like, for instance, this man named Dominic. He was an actor. He didn't have a lot of acting experience. There's pretty much just this photo of him online. But Corey Feldman accused him of harming Corey Haim in his documentary. But then Dominic came out and said, excuse me, actually, Corey Haim told me that he and Charlie Sheen were smoking weed and doing it. Dominic said that it's totally not true, that he never did anything with Corey Haim, that he's shocked. Corey Haim was one of his good friends. He knew him for over 25 years. Dominic also shares during those 25 years of friendship that Corey Haim came back to him and told him that him and Charlie Sheen did it again years later. Corey Haim told him that he had done it with Charlie Sheen again, and he claimed he didn't like it and was finally over Charlie Sheen. He said Charlie was a loser. But now we get into the messy part of this video. Oh my gosh, I was waiting for it, because Corey Haim's mother claims that Dominic isn't innocent and he shouldn't be blaming Charlie Sheen. So Corey Haim's mother is a stage mom, and she does not like the documentary My Truth. She claims that Corey Feldman is telling lies, and he's been doing it for years and creating these false stories.
This morning, Feldman's latest proclamation drawing criticism from Haim's mother, Judy, who tells NBC News she wants her son's name left out of it, saying, quote, "If he finally decides to release names and tell the world who they are, for the sake of more victims, I'll be 100% behind him. But if he's waiting to release the names in the movie, I don't support that. He doesn't need $10 million to do it."
Oh, did I forget to mention that? Yeah, Corey Feldman was asking for $10 million for this documentary. There's no way in hell it would cost $10 million to make this documentary. And that makes me question, like, okay, like, what's really going on here? But it looks like Judy is team Charlie Sheen. And she actually stands up for Charlie against Dominic and claims that Dominic is, in fact, the man who did things to her son. Corey Feldman actually introduced Corey Haim to Dominic, and supposedly Dominic lived close to their home, so Corey Haim would go over there and hang out with a couple of friends. Judy claims one day her son Corey called her yelling and screaming, claiming that Dominic just wouldn't get off of him. She rushed over to the apartment and alleged that when she walked in, she saw a fully dressed Dominic sitting on top of her son. Dominic was sitting on my son, pinning him to the floor, not allowing him to move. She said, "I took a pool cue, and he will remember that, and I went so close to his head and I said, you better get off him or I'm bashing your head in." Yes, Judy, protect your child. And he got off and we left. Judy also claims that Corey had been harmed by Dominic another time in that apartment before, but she did not go into further detail. But she claims that she knows that this Dominic man is responsible and that Charlie Sheen isn't. So what's really going on here, and why is Corey Feldman so motivated to tell Corey Haim's story? I mean, wouldn't Corey Haim have told it if he wanted to tell it? And I want to talk a little bit about their relationship, because the two Coreys, they had their downfalls.
He cycled in and out of rehab, as he told us in 2007.
For me, rock bottom was I can't look in the mirror anymore. Are we in it?
Finally, that same year, he was given a second chance in The Two Coreys, a TV show about his relationship with Feldman.
It's not personal, dude. I just love everyone in that movie.
So later on in their lives, Corey Haim was still struggling with drugs and everything he had been through. And I don't know whose smart idea this was, but the two Coreys decided to create a reality show for A&E. And during this show, we saw some very vulnerable moments. And I want to watch a clip together where we see the two Coreys fight. And you can see that Corey Haim is really struggling with just everything he had been through. They talk about like kind of like blaming each other a little bit for what they had been through as children. It's a really hard scene to watch, so let's go ahead and just watch it together.
I can destroy you right now and you know it.
Corey, I'm saying right here.
I don't need to do that. I don't have to do that.
Corey, I'd love to see you even attempt to do something like that.
Are you kidding me?
Do I look like I'm kidding you right now?
You're an easy target, bro.
I'm right here. Let's do this. I'm right here. Hit me with the hardest bull you got.
Now, why would I want to try and hurt you?
Corey, you opening up to the world about me having a knife in my pocket, and the reason I wear this, man, is like to cover up some scars I have, because like I used to cut into myself, because it's a way to feel, I hear. And like mentioning that, you just rip the envelope, man. I'll go you one better. You let me get around in my life, man, so to speak. when I was about 14 and a half, and I'm saying this right now, by the guy you still f***ing hang out with, and tell me I'm 14 and a half, take responsibility. You know exactly what I'm talking about. What'd you do, man, when you saw that going down when I was 14 to me? What'd you do? You knew about it. Besides being his best friend, what'd you do? What'd you do? Tell us what you did, man.
I believe
Lines of cocaine with me. God bless you.
You want to talk about the truth? Okay, well then let's talk about the truth. I was being at the same time by somebody else. What'd you do? What'd you do?
Talk to you about it.
You talked to me about it?
Yeah, sure. You told me while I was sleeping, this happened, this happened. I'm like, dude, you weren't sleeping? Yeah, I was sleeping. Tried to talk to you about it.
Yeah.
Sure.
Were you sleeping?
I was awake, Corey. I was very aware of what's going on with me. So who might take this to go?
Okay.
Would be the probably smartest thing to do.
You know what?
Corey,
you want to put all that shit on the table? You want about all
just
that?
Put you in the ground, kid.
Yeah, okay.
Really, it's not good. Me around you is detrimental for my health, man. You're really, 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 really up in your head, kid. And I really don't want to be your friend anymore. I can't. I can't. It's not that I don't want to be. I can't.
Well, that's where it's at.
I can't.
It actually makes me tear up a little bit because you can tell that this guy went through something very real, and they're both just kind of like, they don't know how to cope with it. There's no coping here. And I think that's ultimately, like, I know that like Corey Haim passed of like pneumonia, but he used drugs for a long time. And I think that like just the pain that he had inside of him for so long killed him. As for Charlie Sheen, he is not holding back, and he's calling these allegations sick, twisted, and outlandish. I would urge everyone to consider the source and read what his mother, Judy, has to say. So he's calling out Corey Feldman, and, you know, they've got this divide between like Judy's side and Charlie's side, and then there's Corey Feldman's side. Charlie Sheen has also filed lawsuits because of these allegations, because certain publications are listening to Corey Feldman. So he has sued people for defamation over this. And that guy Dominic, remember Dominic, who said that, you know, they smoked pot and did it? Well, he also was sued. But I want to hear what you guys think in the comments below. Here is my email if you have any other video ideas for me. So many of you guys reached out and you wanted me to talk about the two Coreys, so here you go. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in a new one soon. Bye, guys.